Hello.
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 Hi there.
Hello and welcome to the radiotimes.com Doctor Who podcast special edition. My name's Huw Fullerton. I'm joined today by Morgan Jeffery.
Hello.
And Patrick Cremona.
Hello.
And this week we're doing something a little bit different. Normally we do direct reviews of each episode of Doctor Who, but this week we are doing a spin-off based around a certain John Barrowman's Captain Jack Harkness. We are the Torchwood of our own Doctor Who podcast.
Spin-off, very apt.
Yeah. So that's the big news this week. We think that's the big takeaway from the episode, probably. That means one or two other things, which we'll get into. We are still going to do a review. We're going to do it tomorrow, so watch out for that. But yeah, this week we wanted to talk about Captain Jack is back. I mean, how do we feel about that, guys?
Can I say fabulous? Is that too obvious?
Fabulous.
No, I think it's fantastic. I think, Captain Jack Harkness, he's very much the modern series equivalent of something like the Brigadier, where it's great to see him sort of recur across different eras and meet different doctors. I think fans have been campaigning for this for a long time, as has John Barrowman.
Yeah, I think despite that, even though fans have been campaigning for a long time, it's still such a shock to actually see him turn up. I think they've done really well to keep it quiet up until the final moment, and I think that'll be a really exciting moment, or will have been a really exciting moment for everyone watching.
Definitely. I mean, it's one of those things where for years fans have been saying, oh, I wonder if Jack will be back, oh, I wonder if that's the big secret. Even the last series in 2018, they were like, oh my God, is it that Jack in the back of this picture? And it wasn't, obviously. And this year, I think because they've been disappointed so many times, they've finally given up. And this is the year when it is actually happening.
Well, we were talking about this before we started recording, where the BBC did tee up that there was something coming in this episode. There's a big surprise coming. And, I mean, they also previously did that with Orphan 55. They were like, you won't believe the ending of Orphan 55. And I think because that episode maybe didn't go down so well, when they said that something big was coming in this episode, Fugitive of the Judoon, people were like, is it really? But people were guessing, and they were like saying, is it this, is it that? Relatively few people actually guessed that it would be Captain Jack coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it was like single figures.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a lot, at least when I looked. Although I'm sure a lot of people will now claim to have known the whole time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I knew it was coming.
Yeah, so we should probably talk a little bit about who Captain Jack is. I mean, it's possible there's some people listening to this who don't know, who are like, who the hell's that guy?
Wait, it's John Barrowman from Dancing on Ice. What's going on?
Weird crossover. But yeah, Patrick, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, well, so Captain Jack, he first made his way into Doctor Who over 10 years ago now. It was in the... right at the start of the reboot. So he's a time agent from the 51st century, and he uses a vortex manipulator to travel. And he's immortal, and he became immortal in the parting of the ways. Although we didn't.
I was just wondering, it's interesting, is the whole immortality thing with Jack was he lost his powers the last time we saw him in Torchwood Miracle Day.
Oh God, yeah.
And then got them. I tried to forget about that. But then he got them back, I think, at the end of it. But I wonder to what extent, he still has those powers. We know at a certain point he's going to age and expand into the face of Bo, right? So
supposedly, yeah.
Does he still have these powers? If he does, are they still at the same level? That'll be something maybe that...
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. Like, I don't know, because, if you forget that's the last time we saw Jack, because the last time we saw him on the TV show was, I mean, he travelled with Christopher Eccleston's Doctor and Billy Piper for a few episodes, came back for David Tennant a couple of times, and then David Tennant's last episode, he has a little cameo, says farewell, and that's kind of where we think of him. But obviously, there was another series of Torchwood, which was the spin-off that they built around Captain Jack and John Barrowman. And they did that fourth series was Miracle Day,
right? Yeah,
set in America, and they sort of messed around with it. I'd completely forgot about that. So it'd be interesting to see, how that plays in if they bring him back again, which is a possibility.
I've actually got some Jack facts here. Do you want some Jack facts?
Jack facts.
I just enjoy saying Jack facts. So it's been almost 8 years since he last appeared on screen, which was in Torchwood Miracle Day, the final episode. It's been over 10 years since he made his last Doctor Who appearance, which was a cameo in The End of Time Part 2, sort of farewell to David Tennant. 12 years, though, since he played a substantial role in a Doctor Who episode, which is in the Series 4 finale, Journey's End, in 2008. And then almost 15 years since the character was first introduced in The Empty Child in 2005.
Those are some numbers for you. And it's been, several million years for Jack, probably, at this stage. I mean, however many thousand of years he's supposed to have lived.
Jack's personal timeline, I mean, there's an article going up soon on radiotimes.com that tries to delve into Jack's personal timeline and explain possibly where this may fall in it. But it's incredibly convoluted.
Yeah. There's a lot to sort of factor in. But I think, like you said, Patrick, I mean, the sort of real impressive thing about this comeback is just how secret it's been kept.
Yeah.
I spoke to John Barrowman earlier in the week ahead of this coming out. And he was very excited. You can read the results of that on radiotimes.com at the moment. But a couple of things he told us were quite interesting in terms of they really, really kept it secret. They had code names. He was like covered in a black sheet when he was driven to set. They covered him with umbrellas when he walked from the car to the thing. Then they basically locked him in a building, and he shot this cameo in that building all day and wasn't allowed to leave. I mean, I assume they kind of repeated it on the way back.
Yeah.
And he invented this whole like cover story for he was in Cardiff. He was like, "Oh, everybody, I'm renovating my my flat. Everyone help me pick out some wallpaper or whatever." And then he said that actually, then because he kept on having to show pictures of wallpaper, he ended up renovating the flat because
well, he sort of had to show the end result. Of this cover story.
Definitely. So that's quite fun. But yeah, no, I mean, it's very cool that he's back and like that they actually managed to keep it a surprise because I mean, there's been some great surprises this series. Like Sacha Dhawan as the Master was one, and there's some other big surprise in this episode, which we'll talk about in the review because we're focusing solely on Captain Jack in this one. But yeah, there's just been so many kind of big rug pulls. But I think this is the one that I don't know. I mean, we're obviously pre-recording this, but I feel like this will be the one that kind of really gets to people.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
Do you think it'll help win back some fans that maybe haven't quite enjoyed the Chris Chibnall era so much, or?
I think so. I think if anyone has tuned out who was a fan of the Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat era, if they hear Jack's back, I think a lot of them will tune in just out of curiosity.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a funny one because it's one of those things that's super exciting to us as like Doctor Who fans. I'm kind of like, does anyone else know who that is? I know people do know who Jack is.
But it has been, as we were saying, it's been like a decade at least since he was played any significant part in a Doctor Who episode. But maybe people do have some awareness of who he is. It's clearly that he's this legacy character from Doctor Who.
Definitely, yeah. And I think as well, like John Barrowman is in quite a lot of other stuff. Like he's in I'm a Celeb. He was in, he's on Dancing on Ice.
Even if they don't know who Captain Jack is, they'll just go, "Oh, it's John Barrowman."
Yeah. Well, if you didn't know who Captain Jack was, that would be a bizarre cameo. Like what?
But as you were saying, I think it's really impressive. Not just that it didn't leak because they clearly went to all these kind of security measures to keep it a secret, but also I'm so glad that they did keep it a secret. I think Chris Chibnall's been very keen on that. They're sort of like having a bigger veil of secrecy and giving away less, particularly more last series. But again, he's gone for that approach with John Barrowman. It wasn't something like John Sims' Return as the Master, which they did blow ahead of time for Series 10. And I think most people agree that it would have been better if they'd kept that secret.
Definitely.
And more of an impact.
Yeah, and like you could have quite easily, like there's an argument to be made that why not put Captain Jack in the trailer for Series 12 and get the fans excited and, you could would you boost your viewing figures that way? Who knows? But I personally much prefer it being kept a total surprise.
I think so too, and like also because like he plays an important part in the episode, but he's not like a huge part in the episode. It kind of might have been misleading. And yeah, we don't actually know if this is it. Like if this is what we're getting. We're getting Jack for those scenes that we got in this episode, and then that's like the end, or whether he'll be back. Like he kind of leaves on this slightly ominous note, and he sort of hints that maybe maybe this isn't the last we've seen of him. Maybe if the Doctor calls, he'll be there, but we don't know exactly. Like, and I asked him about this, and he was, pretty cagey.
Of course.
So, I mean, I think maybe they'll see how this is received, and that kind of might influence them a bit.
It would seem like such a tease, wouldn't it? Just to put him in for a...
Also, he doesn't meet the Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing for me. Like, of course he's coming back. I mean, I don't have any inside knowledge at all, but of course he is. The fact that if he had a short scene with Jodie, and you might have been like, oh, okay, it's a fun cameo, it's a nod to the past, and they're teeing up something else. But the fact that John Barrowman and Jodie Whittaker do not share a scene in this episode makes me convinced.
It feels intentional. It feels like they're saving that for when they can have him in it more.
Yeah.
But whether that means like, next year or 3 years from now, like it's hard to say. Like, or it might never happen. Like, it might not be something they have, on the books. It might just be something.
10 years from now.
10 years from now, finally.
10 years.
After more campaigning. Yeah.
He just sort of, John Barrowman will tweak his campaign slightly to be like, I want to come back and I want to have a scene with Jodie.
Yeah.
And that's the new thing. It's more specific.
We should talk a bit about the campaigning, because the one person who's wanted Jack to come back the most is John Barrowman. Like, I think you don't always get that with actors on a TV show where they personally are like, no, my character should be back on the show. It would be great.
Sometimes people want to kind of get a bit of distance and not be kind
of
yeah.
People don't want to be defined by it, whereas he's like, no, bring me back.
Yeah, even people who like really love playing the part, the likes of David Tennant, they say, yeah, it's great, but I think give it some time, give it some space.
Maybe I'll come back one day.
Yeah, give people enough time to miss me. Not John Barrowman. He's just like, no, bring me back now. I want to do it now.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think it's funny because we've chatted to John a few times over the years about this, and we've sort of asked, "Oh, are you coming back?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know. You know, I definitely would come back." And like a few months ago, he'd sort of done this whole thing where he was talking about, "Oh, yeah, we should do a reunion movie with David Tennant and Billie Piper." And we actually did a podcast about that, which was me, Morgan, and Tom Ling, not you, Patrick, I'm sorry. And we were just saying, oh, this probably won't happen.
Yeah, Patrick, you're well out of that, actually, because we all look dumb.
Yeah,
We look
I've
really
got a clean record. Yeah, so I always knew he'd be back.
Yeah. No, we were all saying, you know, oh, it's a great idea, but it'll be fun, but it's a pipe dream. It'll never happen. But in our defense, at the time, even a few short months ago, it did feel like a total pipe dream because it had been something that fans and John Barrowman himself had been talking about for so long. It just felt like something that was never going to happen.
Yeah, also it was like such a different era of Doctor Who. It was like a couple of eras ago. Like there was a point, I'm not sure if this is true, but I vaguely remember, I feel like they were going to get him back during the Stephen Moffat, Matt Smith years for a cameo. Like there was a plan, but it was 2011. He was filming that last series of Torchwood, so it didn't quite work out and they didn't do it. I feel like I've read that somewhere. And so like it's been tried and there's been callbacks to him, like in The Day of the Doctor, there's a little, you know, people mention him.
And I think it's The Woman Who Lived as well. There's in series 9, the doctor, the 12th Doctor mentions, you know, I'm sure that Ashilda, because she's immortal, she'll cross paths with Captain Jack at some point.
Yeah. But like it sort of felt like as the years went on, it felt less and less like
exactly. Yeah, and as you say, it's not just, you know, like bringing back the Master and having a new actor take on that role. Something that we've seen before, or bringing back an old monster. You know, very specifically, Captain Jack feels tied. He didn't appear throughout the Stephen Moffat era in Doctor Who, so at least it very much feels like something tied to the Russell T Davies era. And so to insert that into the Chris Chibnall era, which is all, you know, very new, very fresh, it feels odd, but in a good way.
Do you think kind of having him appear in the same episodes that the Judoon kind of played a part kind of maybe countered some of that kind of oddness, because obviously they're also kind of first appeared in the Russell T Davies.
It's a sort of Russell T Davies memory hour, isn't it?
Yeah, but also, I think retroactively we can see that maybe having the Judoon in this episode was a way of distracting from the fact that Captain Jack is back. Because if you've got something like the Judoon, everyone's like, oh, the Judoon, you're not looking for anything else.
Yeah, you kind of think they're going to be the big event. Yeah.
Sometimes if an episode sounds boring, that's when it's... when you get... No. But when an episode, if you read like a synopsis and you think, oh, okay, nothing seems to be going on there particularly, I bet something big's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Because you think they're hiding something. Whereas if the Judoon are already coming back, you don't expect anything else on top of that.
I think as well, like the last series in 2018 was full of like new stuff. You know, it was new monsters. It was all very self-contained. And then this series, they suddenly bring back the Master, which it feels like a huge change. I mean, they've also brought a Dalek back before. We knew the Cybermen were coming back. We knew the Judoon coming back. And suddenly, you know, to have Jack appear like that, like it kind of feels more exciting, I think. Like, I mean, maybe it's just, you know, fan baiting nonsense, but like it's fun, right? Like it sort of feels like it's Doctor Who kind of delving into its own past and future and stuff, which kind of is one of the fun things about the show.
And Doctor Who is unique in that it can do that because it has such a sort of long history. And although it's something that it shouldn't do all the time because it becomes self-indulgent and sort of fan-baity, as you said, I think it would be foolish not to do it every once in a while to have some fun with it.
It probably makes sense, though, that kind of Chibnall did wait for it till his second season to do that, because I think if he'd gone straight in the first series and done a lot of kind of, he wouldn't have had the kind of time for his own voice to grow and his own writing to kind of take hold. It
does feel slightly I don't know, though. It does feel like there was nothing in that series.
Yeah, and now
everything in this series.
And there's probably more we don't know about. Like, we didn't know about, it wasn't announced that Jack was going to be in the series. It wasn't announced that the Master was going to be in the series. We knew the Cybermen of the Judoon. We were like, oh, great. I'm going to Dalek. So, like, who knows what else is going to be?
When the Bandrels show up in the season finale, that's when people are really going to lose it.
The big Sea Devils crossover.
I'm genuinely up for that.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun and, you know, very exciting. And, I mean, it's funny. It feels like weird that they've just brought him back now, like in a way, like it sort of feels like if it was that easy, why not any other time?
Yeah. Well, again, the placing of this, besides just the fact that he hasn't had a scene with Jodie yet, the placing of it in the middle of the series feels slightly odd to me. I mean, I guess you could say maybe it's just to give the series a boost in the middle.
Yeah.
But I also think the fact that this is happening now suggests that Jack might be back. I don't know, maybe he'll be back in episode 10, the finale, or maybe he'll be back at the start of the next series, or something along those lines. To bring such a significant character back in such a way in the middle of a series, and then him to vanished. That doesn't sit right with me.
No, it feels odd. Like, but I guess we'll find out. Like in the coming months or years or decades. John Barrowman at every convention with a new lease of life. A new IMDb Doctor Who credit to his name. Very happy. Well, look, I think we've pretty much covered that ground. But yeah, we will, hopefully we won't be back here in another few months saying, oh, we predicted it all wrong again. Oh, no. Oh, we actually have brought back the bedrolls?
The bandrolls.
The bandrolls. Yeah, the bandrolls. Oh, they were back oh, no. What a bunch of ninnies.
Although, given our track record, may well happen.
May well happen. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for our usual review of Fugitive of Judoon, where we'll be going into more depth about some of the other twists and the actual story of the episode with the space rhinos and whatnot. And yeah, thank you for listening. We have loads of great content on radiotimes.com this week. We spoke to John Barrowman. We've got an interview with him. Got some details about how they kept him coming back a secret, things like that. So yeah, please do check all that out. There'll be some links in the description below. And yeah, thank you very much for listening.